Appreciate you joining us for episode 6 of the Contractor's Corner. Today we are talking about transforming your sales team into trusted advisors with the one and only Tom Basch of Leap. Mr. Basch, how you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man. Well, we are really excited to have you here. One of the things that I've really admired in getting to know you over the last year as I've been with Signpost is uh, not only your passion for like the sales process, but coaching people up, educating them. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a resource for me and helping me kind of better understand the industry there. And kind of one of the things that I've learned about you through that process is really just how much you emphasize the customer experience, within this sales process and things like that. So, what we wanted to talk with you today about was kind of taking a step back and looking at some of those internal things, processes that really help drive, successful customer interactions from, the customer journey from initial outreach to kind of closing that sales. So, I'd love to learn, a bit more about your background so people that have never met you kind of have an understanding of your history. But I've got to ask you, pro pineapple on a pizza or not?
No, I don't want pineapple. I don't want pineapple near my pizza. No.
Okay, all right. That's I'm in the same boat on that. We had a previous guest that said, "I don't do pineapple on my pizza, but I will grill it on the campfire." So that's seems like a pretty good way to go with pineapple.
Yeah, we'll do like some chicken kebabs, some barbecue chicken, put the pineapple on there and that's good. But to be honest, though, I haven't had it on my pizza. I'm so bland. I just always go like I've got this pizza and it's probably new for a lot of people, but it's a white pizza. It's garlic
Oh,
with cheese, then onions, sausage, and banana peppers. Man, it's my go-to. Like,
you have to brush your teeth immediately after that.
oh, my wife loves it. She wants me to put a little bit like on my neck. Get that garlic smell.
All right, there you go, everybody. You got your pizza hack. Skip the pineapple. Go with the white pizza. It makes a great little cologne for you.
Yep.
I love it, man. Well,
Yep.
Tom, outside of the pizza tips, tell us a bit about your background. How'd you get in the industry? How'd you end up with Leap? What are you doing these days?
Yeah, appreciate it. And you kind of set the bar pretty high. I like to set the bar low. That's the old sales rep in me. It's like under promise, over deliver. That's
Well,
kind of my motto.
you just inspire me, man.
Yeah.
It's just a result of
we gotta talk after about who inspires you and why. So
all right, fair enough.
we'll get there. But yeah, so my background, gosh, as it relates to home improvement, I started roofing when I was 15 as a summer job, so tearing
Yeah,
off roofs, carrying up bundles, up a ladder, and I was like, man, this is brutal. But it was like free gym, free tanning,
yeah. This
uh,
kid
you know,
doesn't know any better. Yeah,
yeah, all these. I'm getting cash in my pocket. I'm 15. I have no expenses, and I'm like, this is the dream. And soon enough, though, I learned like this is difficult, right? I want to be the guy up on the roof that's telling me, bring me up two more bundles, bring up a piece of plywood. I'm like, this guy, like
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
be this guy up here. So I learned how to install, figured out how to do that. Then got a crew together, started subbing that out to other larger contractors in the area. Went downtown, got a DBA, slapped a magnet on a truck, and I was like, I'm in business. And, rolled around at like 17, 18, selling roofing. And then I ended up going to college and, trying to do that in college is just, it's daunting. And you got good spending money, but your grades suffer, right? And it's like this balancing act. So anyways, I stopped doing the home improvement, the roofing stuff. Actually, I ended up joining the Marine Corps throughout there. Did that for 4 years. When I got out of the Marine Corps, though, I was like, all right, I'm going to get back into roofing, and not as an installer, but I went and worked for a project for a company as a project manager, and
Yeah.
that led into sales. Maybe 6 months later or so, I was doing that down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my family's in New York, so I ended up going back up to New York a couple years later. Got
Yeah.
a job selling again, and then I got introduced to a company called Hover about a couple years after that, and as one of their first outside sales reps back when the company was 25, 30 reps or
Yeah.
25 or 30 people total, right? And today it's much bigger than that, right? 300 or so people.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 3+ years, partnered with Leap, and after about 3+ years at Hover, decided to make the leap to Leap.
Hey-oh.
And it's dad jokes,
I was
my
gonna
wife
say, I
says
see the
dad
family
jokes.
picture behind you. I'm
Yes.
proud of the Dow jokes. It's
Yeah,
strong.
yeah. I've got a lot of them. And so, anyways, joined Leap as a partnership manager. Did that for about a year, and in January came over as head of customer experience. So really focused in on the entire landscape, how our customers interact with our product, how they use it, and really listening to their feedback to, help guide our decisions of, what are we doing in the future, right? Just because we can build a widget doesn't mean that it's a widget that our customers want. And so really tying that in to make sure that what we're doing from a product perspective is in line with what our customers want and what they need.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, obviously, I had an opportunity to work with you over the last year as a partnership manager. I'm bummed to not be working directly with you on the day to day, but I'm actually really glad that you're overseeing that customer experience because that's what we're here to talk about, right? Is how do we try to equip our sales teams with the right tools to kind of help them become these trusted advisors and provide that best customer experience. So glad to have you on, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things I wanted to kind of start asking you a little bit is really getting an understanding of how, most contractors really approach their customers when it kind of comes to creating these proposals. And I'm kind of curious to understand I didn't realize you started in roofing at 17 trying to sell roofing stuff.
15. I was
Well,
young.
I mean,
Selling. Yeah.
selling. So how did you at 17 years old establish trust with these people to let them say like, look, I'm 17, I'm young, I can barely shave, but listen to me. How'd you go about that?
Yeah. I'm still working on like a 3-month beard here, but it looks like I shaved, a couple days ago. Uh, yeah. So yeah, it's funny too. I remember I'm, out there knocking on doors. I got a little ad in the Penny Saver.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mentioned I have got magnets on my truck. And it was all about perceived value at that time, right? I bought like a half-page ad in the phone book,
Yeah.
like dating myself, right? But like that was the way to do it, right? You had the Penny Saver, you had this half-page ad. I got the magnets on the truck. I'm driving around. I got a ladder rack, and it looked professional. I'm young, right?
Yeah.
I vividly remember this. Working with a customer, giving them an estimate, and he's like, "What are you like, 28, 29?" I'm like, "Yeah." you know. Yeah, I don't think they would expect somebody that's 17 to
Yeah.
be able to kind of know what they're doing. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I think that was the moral of the story for me. It was like, holy cow, there is so much here I don't know. I knew how to install a roof, sure, but
Yeah.
I knew nothing about the sales process. I knew nothing about, how to tie that from lead through to production and post there, right? I knew how to install. And I remember giving an estimate, and back then, I mean, this is like a 15 square roof, and it was like, I don't know, 27,000 or something, which is just super cheap. And I was I way underbid myself, right? Because I had no idea about profit and all this stuff, right? I'm like, yeah, I
Right.
could do that roof. It takes me 2 days, and I'm gonna make a couple $1,000. Cool,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like just totally oblivious to the real economics and how a business is supposed to operate. So from a how did I pitch value? It was like, okay, I told the customer what we were going to do and was very specific because I was the one on the roof, actually doing this, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, in this valley where it's leaking, here's what we're going to do, right? And so educating the customer, was really important in that, in building trust and confidence, and perceived value.
So you mentioned perceived value. You mentioned that you were maybe undercutting yourself quite a bit there because you didn't know the economics piece. What are you telling folks that are working the sales process and trying to build that trust, show that value of being that expert? You know, is there always that kind of thing in the back of your mind where you're always wondering, is somebody just going to undercut me? Like, how do you get over some of those hurdles of, am I coming in too high, and how do I build that trust there?
Yeah, I think the first thing is understanding the economics, right? Knowing what your numbers are. I think too
Yeah.
many people don't know what their numbers are, and they know, hey, this job's going to be 350 or 400 a square, whatever it is, right? And they're like, they do some kind of quick measurement or something where they get okay, this is about 30 squares, and I'm at $400 a square, so it's at $12,000, something like that, right? And they just
Yeah.
throw the number out there, and if you do that enough, your margins are just going to be so inconsistent, right? Because you're going
Yeah.
to have some roofs that are more than that, some that are less, and you don't really know your numbers. And so at the end of the day, you really have to know your numbers. But there's this thing, I'm sure people have heard this, right? You can either get the job cheaper, quicker, or at higher quality, right? And you can only have two of those three. You
Yeah.
can't be cheaper and a high quality because you're not going to get it done quickly. If you want it cheaper, well, you're just not going to get a good quality job. It's not going to be quick. So whatever. Anyways, you can only have two of those things. So know what your numbers are. Pitch the perceived value. Understand that. Build value in your presentation to that customer. Let them know exactly why things cost what they do, why you have to do what you have to do, and let them know, like, you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
Just because your neighbor got a roof for 7,000 and I'm at 12,000 doesn't mean that contractor is going to be in business in 3 years when you got a leak, or
Yeah.
that they used the right material or that they're insured, right? All these different things you really got to communicate to the customer.
To really show that value piece. And out of curiosity, like, you mentioned that back in your day when you were taking out paper ads and the penny papers and all that stuff,
Yeah.
uh, like I imagine you get the job, you go out, buy the materials, and you're ready to go. How do you kind of set these expectations? We've seen something that I actually learned from you was that manufacturers will lock in prices for X number of months, and then there might be a fluctuation piece. How do you help people understand communicating, maybe those external factors, or how to set those expectations with people of, look, I can give you this quote today, but if we wait 6 months, everything's going to be different. Like, how do you help them kind of plan and help the homeowner understand maybe what they're getting into there?
Yeah, it's all about setting the right expectations and letting folks know that, hey, this isn't my price today, but this might not be my price tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody sees the price of lumber just skyrocketing,
Yeah.
and I think people are aware of those things. Home prices are just astronomical. I was looking the other day at like the homes just for fun, right? And
Yeah.
looking at like nice homes on the beach that are like $1 million homes, and I'm like, oh, just looking around. Well, you go and you look like 4 months ago, and that house was like was sold for half the price, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. So I think some people are aware of those things. There was a lot of shortages in things like ice and water shield and colors and variations and things like that. And you have to let your homeowners know that we have a 4 month backlog. We're not going to be able to get to your roof or windows or whatever it may be for this amount of period of time, right?
Yeah.
Because of these disturbances among the supply chain.
Yeah.
And as a sales rep, you have to know what's available and what's not, right? The last thing you want to do is sell some color that you can't get in for 6 months, and the other color the customer was considering you can get in tomorrow, right?
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're aware of what those limitations are and that you're setting the right expectation with the customer.
Now, with those kind of, like you said, like, you really got to stay up to date on the education in terms of what's available from supply standpoint. Are you recommending people run like weekly meetings, or is it something where they got to check on it on a daily basis, or kind of like what's a best practice there around just like that educational component?
Yeah, so generally speaking, right, like a supplier will have price increases periodically, right? But when they have a price increase, it's not going to affect you today, generally speaking, right? It's going to be, hey, at the end of May, prices are going to go up, and this is what they're going to be, right? So when things like that happen, if you're a sales manager, generally what these folks do is like, okay, let's bring in the sales team, let's update their pitch book, let's give them the new pricing. And those kind of things. What our customers do at Leap is super easy, right? One of the things I love the most. On the back end, they just go in there and update the prices, tell their sales reps to refresh their iPad, and they're good, right? You don't have to call everybody in for this meeting, take them out of the field, use up a time slot that could be used for an appointment, those kind of things. So it's super simple. If a color is not available, just remove it from their available picker selector.
Yeah.
So it just makes it super easy from that standpoint.
Got it. So yeah, for the folks that are paying attention at home, if you're not using kind of latest greatest technology, it could be setting you back, like Tom said. You're missing appointment slots because you're sitting there trying to do your manual paper updates and make sure everything's good to go there. So if you got an
Yeah.
opportunity to leverage the tools that you got available, make sure you're making sure you're taking advantage of that kind of stuff.
Tom, I'd also add to that, like in our contracts we would have hey, if we'll include maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sheets of plywood, but if we get in there and we find out that you need 30 sheets of plywood,
Yeah.
your plywood's going to cost $45 a sheet. And that was my number back in the day. I mean, you can't even buy a sheet of plywood today for $45, but that included the plywood, the labor, a profit, all that baked into that price.
Yeah.
Well, in today's market where plywood is, the price of lumber is fluctuating and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's high. You want to be able to have those numbers updated automatically in the contract so that there's no guessing there, right? If I'm writing down 45 on a contract because that's what I remember from 3 months ago and I haven't sold a job that needed plywood in 3 months, I
Yeah.
may be losing our company money on that, as opposed to having a contract that's digital that already has that information updated with the latest numbers on it, so that as a sales rep, I don't even have to think about what the cost of plywood is. It really doesn't matter to me. It's on our contract. It's there. I can read it. I can tell the customer what it is, and I'm not costing our business any money.
Yeah, that's, I'm glad you brought that up because, as we were kind of prepping for this and brainstorming, one of the things that I was kind of concerned about was, what we saw with the Suez Canal and the Evergreen ship that got stuck and just goofed global supply trade. I was thinking, great, I quoted you $30, but I won't be able to get that stuff, or I won't buy it for a couple months. And what you were really telling me, which I didn't realize is so important, is once you get that quote, go ahead and buy the materials same day. So you've got those prices locked in, you're ready to run. You're not, shall we say, potentially victim to a lot of the craziness that goes on with that supply chain piece.
Yep, or at least build in a cushion for yourself. If we've seen price of lumbers going up, right? So you might be at $100 a sheet of plywood, and maybe that covers some variance. But yeah, if you know you have an increase coming up from your supplier, your distributor, on May 31st, and you've got jobs that are sold out past that date, you would definitely want to get that information over to the supplier distributor so that they can you can buy that stuff before the price increase goes into effect.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, we're talking about that stuff, like, are you telling people, like, generally, like, book the job as quick as possible and get started as quick as possible, or is it all capacity planning in terms of the size of the business, what they have planned kind of in their pipeline, and I guess to your point, going back and setting that expectation with the homeowner of like, look, we can sign it today, but we can't touch it for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a sales rep, I want that job sold today, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, absolutely. I'm using all those things as reasons why we need to sign today, right? The cost of lumber is going up, material shortages, all these things, right? Those are all reasons why to overcome any kind of timing objection, right? Like, this is why we need to sign today, lock this price in. I know some companies that will say, hey, here's today's price. If we don't sign today, your price is going to go up, whatever, 10% or something like that. And it's simply the matter of an opportunity cost, right? I got to come back out here. I got to do all this where I could be at another appointment. And so certainly you want to take into effect. But as far as a business, I mean, you've got some kind of projection and ideas of, what kind of volume you're going to do. So there's some planning that you can do on your part, but
yeah.
certainly helpful to communicate to customers that, hey, this is what's happening. Prices are going up. We want to make sure that, we sign a contract now so that we can secure this pricing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just real quick, earlier on the chat, you mentioned that there are kind of three things that you always go over when you're talking about the value added education piece. And just to make sure I got them right, that was the quality, the cost of the job, and then the time to complete. And you said
cheaper, faster, and better quality. Those three, and you can only have two of those three.
Got it. Okay, cool.
You can't have all three.
Got it. It's like, yeah, taking some notes here, man. This is good stuff. So I'm kind of curious, right? Like, we talked about, some people are a little bit maybe more old school. They've got their paper physical pricing books. Y'all are obviously connecting to the back end of some of these major distributors, suppliers, so all that stuff's updated on the fly. What is that process if something does change on the fly that can really impact the project? Are there internal processes that take place in terms of saying, okay, we as a business need to take a step back and see what's changing in the market? And then do you come up with a plan to communicate that with customers? Or do you generally, trust the sales folks to do right by the customer and
Never trust a sales rep, Tom. Come on. Never trust a sales rep.
So that was my mistake, was trusting you to come on.
Right. Never trust a sales rep. No. Generally speaking, you want to have those things in place already, right? Because disturbances are going to happen. Things, it could just be as simple as weather, right? That can disrupt, production. So you want to have a plan. You always want to keep the customer in aware of what's happening. So you want to maintain that communication, because the last thing you want is a customer who signed up to do a $20,000 project and they don't hear from you for 2 months. That's, even if you told them that you're not going to install the project for 3 months, they don't want to be left in the dark for that long, because then they just start, thinking of worst case scenario, right? My contractor took my money and ran. They're, not going to do this. They're not going to do that. You hear all these kind of horror stories, on the news or something. And so you always want to stay in communication, let the customer know, where their job is in status. And maybe it's, hey, you're 10th in, line, or, we're waiting on this specific product to come in, or the color you selected is on back order, or we had this hurricane come through and so everything got bumped back 2 weeks. But just that communication of letting the customer know is super important and helpful in keeping them abreast of what's going on.
Got it. One of the things I was going to actually ask you next is how can salespeople be proactive about educating their customers around that production process? And it just sounds like you said, like, good regular customer cadence, that ongoing education piece, whether it's going to be maybe a job you can do quickly or if it's pushed out several months because we're looking at weather concerns, supply chain distributions, et cetera. And you mentioned the kind of like your 10th in the queue. That hadn't even actually crossed my mind to say, we've got X number of jobs ahead of you, but almost in a way it builds, that additional trust because it's like, look, these other people trust us to get the job done right and they're being patient. You're in the right camp. We're going to take care of you. But we've just got these external factors that are going on. And in terms of like the client communication piece, is it really just dependent upon what the client wants? Is it just a simple text message? Is it more of a formal email or hey, let's chat for 15, 20 minutes and I can kind of give you the landscape?
Yeah, I think it can be a variety of all of those, right? I think you want to have a plan in place.
Yeah.
And that may be, I'm going to text you at these periodic checkpoints, if you will, right? Uh, Thank you for your business. Here's a picture of your installer. Here's the date we're going to do your project. Here's what we're waiting on. Some of that can be automatic, and they can always have a callback number to reach out to somebody
Yeah.
if they've got more questions, concerns, anything like that. But I think for the most part, I mean, there's some good platforms out there that can automate that messaging, that can really free up time from other folks in your business from having to pick up a phone and call somebody or shoot over an email.
Yeah.
So I'd highly encourage contractors to take a look at some of the automation that's available around the communication.
Yeah, yeah. And out of curiosity, like somebody, let's say for example, is doing things on pen and paper. What are kind of just some of those fundamental first steps that you say around that expectation piece for somebody, let's say for example, that was in your shoes that worked for a contractor but decided that they were going to go out on a limb? Like, what are those just kind of fundamental, like, minimum things they've got to have in place to make sure that they are not only handling the customer communication, but making sure that they've maybe got a very, very simple process because they may be a team of one or two.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things depending on where a customer's at, right? I think CRMs are important. You want to have some way to manage your flow from lead through sale through production. Obviously, I believe having a good sales platform and process is important. That's why I'm at Leap, right? I think it certainly solves a major
Yeah.
pain point. But that Leap in itself, and I don't want to sit on a soapbox, but like in and of itself, it does so much for you from a document perspective. The ability to create estimates, the ability to generate proposals and contracts, the ability to submit financing, housing all of your sales resources and materials. I mean, there's a lot there, right? But if you factor in those things, I'm a big proponent of offering financing. I think contractors should sign up for that. Now, most of them, for most lenders, you need a year in business, right? So if you're just getting started, you want to establish that time in business first.
Yep.
But I think that is important as well. I think having a third-party measurement provider, if you're doing exterior work, is a great resource to have. Frees you up from spending time on the roof. I knew as a 100% commission sales rep that I didn't get paid to pull a tape measure on a roof, right? Like my
Yeah.
job, I got paid to sell in the home. So if I could, outsource, for lack of a better term, that measurement piece, I was going to do that. Let somebody else do it. And there's a bunch of providers that can do that for you. But I definitely align with somebody like that can take that aspect of the business out of your hands so you can focus on the piece of it that you're good at. And if that's sales, selling. If you're not good at sales, get somebody who is, right? Maybe your strength is on the production side. That's great. You can help in that flow from once that contract signed to now getting it installed. Obviously, align with a manufacturer, align with a distributor. Those type of things are sort of go without saying.
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I can imagine like how powerful that is to say, hey, I'm a certified, XYZ major manufacturer. I've gone
Perceived
through the.
value.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It all goes back to building that trust, that perceived value, and letting that homeowner know that you are really the subject matter expert for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, I love it, man. All right, so are there like I know obviously you're a big fan of Leap, like shocker. But I'm curious, like before you jumped into Leap and before we had some of these things were like these all-in-one automated tools, like what were those most common sales tools that you were maybe seeing people use in their interactions? Was it just a basic like PowerPoint piece or was it physical contracts? What are those kind of essential things that people need to be thinking about as they are, to your point, meeting with homeowners and distributing that perceived value and educating them on why they should choose you?
Yeah, I think still our biggest competitor is pen and paper, right? It's
Yeah.
doing things the old-fashioned way, and there's so many disadvantages to that. But yeah, I mean, you need to have some kind of way to present an estimate, right? Hopefully that's not paper and carbon copies. And, back in 15, 20 years ago, I'm using Excel,
Yeah.
to do these kind of things. And it's not scalable. It's not efficient. It's not sustainable, all these things. So yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing, right? They've got manufacturer brochures. If you're like me, you're standing out there like a scarecrow with two sample boards, like charcoal gray or charcoal black or weathered wood.
Yeah.
Which, and I got to hold it one in the sunlight, one in the shade, one up
Yeah.
on the roof. Like one at an angle. I mean, just crazy stuff, right? But that's how people did it before the technology existed today, where all that stuff's just digital, right? It's sitting in an iPad, so I can just, hey, oh, you like this one? Let me show you that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are some of the more basic things. If we're really talking tools, it's like got a ladder and tape measure and those kind of things, right? As a sales rep, but again, technology can solve that. Order an Eagle View, get a hover, do a roof scope, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those type of things exist to take away some of that manual and unsafe processes that used to take place. But I'll say this above all, right? Before you start leveraging any kind of technology, make sure you have the right process in place, because adding technology isn't like the silver bullet. You have to have a good process, and technology will make it more efficient and more productive, but you got to have the right process in place first.
Right on. And so, like, let's say for example we've got this great process in place, where maybe we're average, adding the technology piece to it. uh, as you are engaging with a potential customer, when does that education process start?
Oh, the minute you knock on the door, you're telling them about you, your company, what you're gonna do, why you're gonna do it. I mean, if you stop and think about this, right? I think it's most homeowners will only replace the roof once in their lifetime, right? So
Yeah,
if you're a roofing salesman, there you go. If you're selling windows, doors, it's still similar. It's just not something that people do that often.
right.
And so they're looking to you as the expert. The other thing it does too, right? If you've got several, most homeowners will get like 2 or 3 estimates, right? If you're the one that's in there and you're explaining the process, what you're essentially doing is like building a checklist for that homeowner. This is, wait a minute, I didn't hear it. The other contractor was going to remove my siding and put step flashing there and run ice and water up the wall and all this stuff, right? Like he didn't tell me any of that. Maybe he's not doing that, right? He's $2,000 less, but he's not taking these steps. So it starts to build that doubt in the customer's mind that I better go with this contractor because he told me all these different things that are going to happen, right? And it's important to set the right expectations with the customer too. Things like, if you, again, I'll use roofing as an example. You have tens of thousands of nails coming off of that house. If you don't tell the customer that, hey, we're going to do our best to make sure we get everything, all these nails, all the debris out of here, but you may find a nail here or there, right? We're going to do our best. We're going to run magnets across the lawn, all these things. But it's good to set the right expectation, because it's gonna help prevent fires down the road when you're trying to pick up that last check and the homeowner's like, I keep finding nails in my yard, and it's like, I'm
Can you
sorry.
tell me about the nail that's gone through my foot when I was mowing my lawn?
Right. So you have to make sure you're setting the right expectations. Hey, the crew's going to be out here at 7 a.m. tearing off your roof. If you're not okay with that and you're not up at 7 a.m., we can move it to 8 a.m. But the last thing you want is your customers waking up at 7 a.m. because somebody's up there banging on their roof.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bad customer experience.
Yeah, I imagine too, like young families buying a first house, they've got a sleeping child, like you said.
Yeah.
Making sure that even just the basic scheduling is on point
Yeah.
there.
But even things like putting a dumpster in the driveway, you these things that you may not communicate to the homeowner. I'm telling you all these based on my past experience. All right. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
these things have happened. I've made
I
these
had my
mistakes.
roof replaced, and
Yeah.
they didn't tell us about the dumpster. So I came home from work, and I was like, "Cool, guess I'm gonna park down the street now." Like,
Yeah. So exactly. You
Yeah.
show up home, right? And there's
Yeah.
a dumpster in your driveway, and you're like, wait a minute, I can't get in there, or I can't get out of my driveway.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't get out of my garage, right?
Yeah.
Those things happen.
Yeah.
Or you got material on one side, and you got the dumpster on the other side, and you didn't have this conversation with the customer. You're going to be answering a lot of phone calls and risking now having to go back out there to move these things and do those things. So it's really important to educate the customer on what to expect. Tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it. Again, you're the teacher. they're not, we've done this tens of thousands of times, but for them, it could be the first and only time they ever go through this process. And so to take the time to really educate them and explain the process builds a ton of perceived value in who you are. And again, creates sort of that mental checklist that they're looking at and saying, this other contractor didn't mention this or didn't tell me about this.
Yeah.
And again, it strengthens your reputation.
Yeah, I was just taking a note here that really just like the way that you describe the transparency of the process leads to that mental checklist for the homeowner, so they really understand what to expect ahead of time just by walking through, hey, here's how we're going to do this job from a process standpoint. And then subconsciously, to your point, you're already cutting out your competitor because they didn't mention removing the siding for the flashing
Right.
piece. And now the customer's already saying like, oh man, is that guy really as thorough as he said he was? Because I'm hearing something from this sales rep that's really making me feel a lot better about it all.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I personal anecdote here, man. When I had my roof replaced in Atlanta, we had the guy that was out there holding the different shingles and stuff, and
Yeah.
uh, like he told us his story of like you said, right? I worked for this contractor for years. I decided to start my own small business, so I've been in the industry for 25 years, but I've been on my own for 3. Certified partner with XYZ shingle manufacturer, and I'll say that his pitch wasn't super polished, but by him telling us about his background and really making us feel comfortable by walking us through the process, minus the little detail of putting a dumpster in my driveway, like he really helped us feel so much better about that process in terms of what to expect. Because yeah, I mean, young first time home buyer, I'd just been married, and a $15,000 roof was a terrifying
Yeah.
perspective to go with. And then on the flip side of that, we had to have a deck replaced, and we were against 2 people at that point. We were cash poor as can be, and so we went with a guy that was like you said, the cheaper, fastest option, and we suffered from a quality standpoint. Whereas,
Right.
looking back on it, the secondary company that we were with, they were using an iPad and like a sketch product, so they could actually draw up what it would look like, showing us square footages, rough estimates on the lumber cost. And then he had a little printer in his car, so we ended up with like this great little packet to kind of take with us.
Yep.
Again, we were certainly house poor at that point, and so we went with the cheaper option. And you know, 3 weeks into a deck rebuild, I was just kicking myself of like, man, we should have just spent the extra 5K and gone with this other group, because
Yeah.
the quality, just even from the sales pitch, was so much better that it would have cost us more, and we would have certainly taken that temporary hit. But that peace of mind, man, of working with somebody that clearly has got a good process in place, they were great from an educational standpoint, and we went with the cheaper option, and we suffered from it, man. So
Yeah. And imagine now, like, here's the other thing too, right? Like, what you can do when you are more expensive is offer those payment options,
yeah,
because as you said, right? Like, maybe you couldn't have, maybe it was $10,000 and the other guy was at 6,000. You're like, okay, I can afford 6,000. I can't afford 10,000.
that's
But
exactly
if
what
that guy,
happened.
yeah, if that guy at 10,000 would have said, hey, can you afford $100 a month? Let's get you finance, right? Now you're getting the better quality, and maybe there's probably more margin in there, right? But
Yeah,
you're paying $100 a month. It's affordable for you, and you're getting the better quality job and project. So like customers, it still blows my mind. It's like 3 to 7% of roofing contractors offer financing, and it's like, why not? Like don't be scared that there's
oh wow,
there's a dealer fee, right? That's no big deal. There's a cost of felt. There's a cost for drip edge. There's a cost to remove that roof. There's a cost to
yeah,
install it. Like offering financing, yeah, there's a cost to it, but it's part of the cost of goods, right? Like that's part of the cost for the job. So like don't be afraid to offer financing. And one of the things that I've seen with customers with Leap is that they find it just super easy to have it in there and not have to worry about, eating into their margins or understanding some of the nuances of it. It's just part of the process. They're able to offer it. It's streamlined. It's right there, and it gives customers, it gives uh, homeowners the ability to pick a monthly payment option that's affordable to them, as opposed to just a $20,000 ticket item. Because let's say you only have 6,000, and you're choosing between a $20,000 project and a $15,000 project. You can't afford either one of them, right? So dropping price doesn't make a difference. Give
yeah.
somebody an affordable option, monthly payment, just like we do with cars, right? Same idea.
Yeah. I didn't realize that like less than 7% of people, or at least as you said, in the roofing industry, are offering that. Because
Yeah.
100% to your point, if I could have gone with the shall we say, more polished company with a monthly payment, I would have done that all day.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an option for us. So yeah, for those that are listening at home, definitely take a look at the financing options. Is that something where they work with like a local credit union or a commercial credit union, or any folks that you recommend in terms of how to get started there?
Oh, there's a ton of great, home improvement specific lenders. Definitely. We work with 7 different lenders. Everything from Green Sky Service Finance, Dividend, Enterbank, Foundation, Fortiva. Gosh, I don't want to leave anybody off. We've got PowerPay is great. There's just so many options out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, y'all at home, there's your immediate hit list. So hit
Yeah.
rewind 15 seconds, write that list down. You got some good places to go out and start.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think about in my own personal experience of the roof replacement piece and the deck replacement piece, you talked a lot about, hey, this is the checklist of the process we're going to be doing, things like that. How does that kind of impact like the emotional aspect from the homeowner in that buying process? Like, do you see people physically relax more? Can you tell in their voice and tone as you are establishing that trust and that value of why you are the people to go with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, when your uh, roof's leaking and you don't know what the cause of that is, that's disrupting, right? And when you don't know that $15,000 check you're about to write is actually going to cover the issue that you have with your roof, it's worrisome, right? Are you making the right decision? You don't even know what's causing that leak. Is it just going to come back and happen again? Are
Yeah,
they really going to fix it? All these different things. And so to educate them on, hey, here's why this happened. Here's what we're going to do to prevent it from ever happening again. Taking the time to do that certainly puts the customer at ease. It makes them feel a lot better going with you than the other person who said, yeah, you need a new roof. We're going to replace it.
yeah,
Well, it doesn't tell me anything about why this
yeah,
problem happened, right? Like,
exactly.
is it just going to happen again tomorrow, in six
Yeah,
months, in 6 years? Like, what are we doing to prevent it from happening again?
yeah,
So certainly, you have to carefully massage like the intricacies of what you're actually doing and translating those to the benefit to the homeowner. And that comes back to doing a proper discovery as a sales rep, right? Really understanding, uh, you know, why did they call you out there, right?
yeah,
And once you can figure out what that is, you can understand what that gap is between where they're at today and where they want to be. And you're solving for that, right? So Johnny can sleep at night in a bed that's not going to be wet from the roof leaking, and
yeah,
he's not going to be crawling into your bed at 2 a.m. because there's this drip coming down from the ceiling, right? Like that's the problem you're solving. It's they don't care what technical aspect of that shingle that you're doing is. They need to know that you're going to solve their problem, and I'm going to solve it by doing these things. So yeah, it's a delicate thing you have to rope you have to walk between getting too technical into like the wind speed ratings and the
yeah, yeah.
tar component and the stickiness and the adhesiveness, right? Like customers want to know that it works and they want to understand what you're doing to solve their problem. So yeah, you really have to dial it in and again understand what their problem is.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I'm glad that you mentioned the technicality of the tar. I'm just like, it's sticky. Like, next
Right.
question. Like,
I've had people talk about well, this shingle weighs this amount and this shingle weighs this amount, and if I'm a homeowner, I got like glazed over eyes, like
you're like, I'm not backpacking with the shingle on my back. Like, I don't
right.
care
It's like
about the weight.
wait, am I carrying the shingles up the ladder or are you carrying it up? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah,
That poor 15-year-old. Let's go with the lighter shingle. I'm gonna get him
yeah,
a break.
right, yeah,
Man.
exactly.
I love it, dude. So let me ask you this: like, we talk about the education piece, setting that proper expectation. You're staying in touch with the customer along the lines. You know, when we think about something like a post-sale education piece and the peace of mind, is it something like, hey, we're going to warranty your roof as a business for 1 year, or the shingles are warranted by the manufacturer? How do you kind of say, not only did we do this job, but you know, 6 months from now, this thing's not going to start leaking again, and if it does, we got your back.
Yeah, it comes back to the sales process, right? Really educating them on the process and what's going to take place. Certainly, manufacturer warranties are really strong, especially nowadays, right? These shingles have like limited lifetime warranties. And again, I'm probably speaking, specifically to roofing, but this is applicable across multiple different trades and product lines, right? But the manufacturer warranties are great because not only, for as a young company like I was when I've got my magnet slapped on my truck and I'm out there running around and, I just filed my DBA 3 months ago, and here I'm offering a 10-year warranty. Like,
Yeah,
okay, dude, are you going to be around in 10 years?
yeah,
But when you can back that up with a manufacturer warranty, it says, hey, look, I recognize that, something may happen, I hope not, but something may happen to my business. But you're backed by, whatever manufacturer that's been in business for X amount of years, and all its different accolades. So that certainly helps. But again, it goes back to communication, setting the right expectations. You want your customer to have a great experience, because when they have a great experience, they're going to tell somebody else about it. They're going to leave you a great review. They're going to promote your business, promote your brand, and ensure that the longevity of your business is there and that your reputation is solid. And so following through with what you outlined at the beginning, what the expectations were, how you addressed anything that came up, the fact that you were keeping them in touch, in communication throughout the process, letting them know that, hey, you intended to do their roof 2 weeks from now, but because of this delay, we're not getting to it until 2 months. That customer, thankfully, is going to be happy with you because you've kept them in the loop. They understand what the delay is. They don't think that you went to Jamaica with their money. They understand that these kind of things happen, and you end up with a happy customer, as opposed to somebody who's left in the dark, and you're putting out fires, just constantly chasing and say, oh, I'm so sorry. We were supposed to start 4 weeks ago, but I didn't tell you the shingles aren't in yet, or something like that. It's keep the communication, the line of communication open. Be transparent. Show them why you have to do what you have to do, and you're gonna have a good long business.
I love it, man. Well, Tom, this has been an absolute blast to chat with you about the sales process, setting that proper expectation with the customer. I mean, like I said, it's going to come down to making sure you've got the right tools in place, the right processes, that constant line of communication. Just thinking of my own nightmare stories in the past. At the end of the day, like you said, you're going to have a happy customer. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to leave you a review. It's just going to bolster your spot in that community, man. So I absolutely love it. So everybody that's viewing at home here, we want to encourage you to check out leaptodigital.com to learn about bringing more transparency to your workflows, really working on that sales process, the communication piece, and gaining that customer trust. As we talk about reputation and things like that and communication with the customers, we're always here to help you with that at Signpost and answer any questions that you might have here. If you're on YouTube, check out below in the description here. We've got a downloadable resource for you that the folks over at Leap have put together to kind of help you think through that sales process, building that transparency, and really helping that homeowner feel more comfortable with doing business with you. And finally, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and we'll fill you in on the next time we've got a Contractor Corner coming up. So Tom Basch, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the time as always, and hope you guys have a great week ahead.
Absolutely. Hey, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
You got it. Cheers.